The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
All right, good morning. It's 4 minutes after 8, 8:04, 630 KHOW, Radio Free Denver on a Thursday, March the 10th. Beautiful day, 63 the high. I don't know if this man has ever done a radio show before in his life. I kind of talked him into it yesterday. Gene Belinsky is our guest. Good morning, sir, and welcome to Denver. Welcome to 630 KHOW.
Good morning.
Now, have you ever done a radio show before in your life?
No, not at all.
Now, I know you listen online because you are amongst the hundreds of, I guess, 51% or greater of American people who are interested in the life of the President of these United States.
Yes, I'm interested in his background. I basically got interested after the election, not before the election.
I know that you'd like to remain kind of anonymous guy, and I understand that. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know that, you live in Wisconsin, I believe, correctly?
Yeah, I live in Wisconsin. I'm a retired guy, 70 years old.
All right. And you are, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're kind of an amateur genealogist.
Yeah, I've done quite a bit of work on my family, and of course, as you go into it, you have to branch out into other families. So I've done a significant amount of work on genealogy of the families.
Why did you get interested in President Obama?
Well, just because the question came up as a possibility because of Hawaiian law that somebody who wasn't born here could have obtained a birth record. If I look at Wisconsin, they don't have the same laws, and you couldn't do the same thing you could do in Hawaii with the laws they have there at that point in time.
So, as a just an aside, the Obama records have never been released. Passport records, Obama kindergarten records, Punahou School, Occidental College records, Columbia University, Columbia Thesis, Harvard Law Review, University of Chicago scholarly articles, Illinois State Bar Association records, Illinois State Senate records, schedules, medical records, marriage licenses, Barack's mother and Stanley Ann Dunham, Barack Obama, and then, of course, Stanley Ann Dunham and Lolo Soetoro, divorce documents, Soetoro Dunham, marriage license, adoption records, and, of course, the long-form certificate of live birth. And that's just openers.
Right, so it makes you wonder.
Yes. Yes, it does. So where have you gone and what have you looked at, and what conclusions would you like to share with our audience?
Well, what I was doing was trying to confirm some things as being fact versus fiction because you read so much on the Internet. So basically what I tried to do first off is talking about his mother, Stanley Ann, and supposedly being in Washington a short time after his birth and so forth. I looked into that and found out that she didn't actually start school in August. She started school in September, and that was confirmed by the registrar in Washington. So that at least gave me a time frame of like 45 days she could have got from wherever she gave birth, be it Hawaii or anywhere else, to get to Seattle and get settled in.
Well, but school didn't start until the fall. And this is what I think you're so brilliant at. There are people you found. I'm jumping ahead here from our conversation. You found senior in summer school, right? Barack Obama Sr.
Yeah. What I did on Obama Seniors, I had read that letter that was posted on WND's website. In which he wrote to a friend over in
Kenya.
Yeah. And he stated that he went ahead and not only finished work on a BA, but also supposedly on a master's. And I said, I just can't believe in 3 years he could have done that. So I went ahead and I wrote to registrar, and we went back and forth. And basically what he did confirm for me is that Obama Sr. did go, or shall we say he signed up and supposedly attended school the summer of 1960 and 61. And the 61 semester ran from June 27th to August 4th of 1961, which is, of course, Obama's birthday.
That was fascinating when you told me that.
And when I seen that, I said, well, if this guy is really and truly at school, then obviously, if his wife supposedly went to Kenya, she didn't go with him.
That's right. And I don't think she did anyhow, but I think that puts in
Yeah,
there.
I'm open on that, too.
Yeah, okay.
I'm definitely not what you'd call a birther.
No, but you are. I think birther is pejorative. You can call yourself a verifier. You can call yourself a proofer.
I just call myself a researcher.
I think that's a wonderful way for me.
And you have to take it to wherever it takes you, whether it's plus or negative, and what you're thinking.
Absolutely. That's why science is so wonderful, not philosophy.
Right. So I was able to go ahead and confirm that, and then what I also did previous to that, back in January of last year, everybody was talking about these newspaper
birth announcements.
Birth announcements in both of them. So what I did is I went ahead and I obtained for the month of August both newspapers, microfilm copies of the microfilms.
And one of them bought out the other one. I understand now.
Yeah, actually I think the sales started around February and they closed something like May or something like that.
And that's the Examiner and the Star Bulletin.
It's the
Advertiser. I'm sorry. I'm working.
The Star Bulletin.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I actually took every day and I went ahead and listed every day there was births between the two. And then I went ahead and I just wanted to compare to see if the two newspapers consistently would go ahead and publish within a few days of each other these birth announcements. Because I still question whether the health department gave them out or what department gave them out, because they're not consistent. If we look at Obama's birth record that was published in the Advertiser, let's see, that was on the 13th. There was like a total of, I think it was 25 births on that day. Well, within the next day or so, that whole list appeared in the Star Bulletin. But if we look through the month, both plus and minus, you'll find times where there'll be, say, 15 or 20 on one day, and yet in the other newspaper, instead of appearing, say, on a 10th, some of those will appear on, say, the 2nd or 3rd, and then maybe the rest of them might appear on the 15th or 20th.
What conclusions do you draw from that, sir?
I don't know what to say on it, because you would think if the health department put out a list that within a few days both newspapers, assuming they had the space, column space in the newspaper to put them in, that they would be publishing both of them fairly consistently through the whole month, and that's really not true. So I don't know what that
So when people like Bill O'Reilly, when I thought about what you told me yesterday, and I looked at some other stuff, O'Reilly and Karl Rove and Chris Matthews and the whole bunch, they always use the newspaper. But
well, I mean, it is there. Like I've also been in contact with people who are actually trying to diagnose the type and all this sort of stuff. And I've looked at that, and I've done enough work with microfilm machines. You can take that same film and stick it into 3 different machines and make copies of it, and all 3 of them will look different.
Wow.
Because somebody didn't clean the machine or whatever.
So I'm going to stop you from time to time and say, then what conclusion, Gene, do you come up with after that?
Well, my conclusion is inconsistent. What I did try to do, although I haven't gotten anywhere, is I was trying to see if there was, if the paper in their archives might have had the original source information where they published these birds. But so far, since they merged, I haven't gotten anywhere.
I know you listen online, so I got to do a traffic report. Our guest is in Wisconsin. He contacted me. Fascinating guys, very deliberate. It's 13 after 8, 8:13, 6:30 KHLW. Traffic time, here's Susan. 19 after the hour of 8, 8:19. Duralubi on the other side of the glass. The Sheik Scott DeCon. I'm Peter Boyles. Good morning. Thursday, 63 the high today, 6:30 KHLW. This man has been listening to the radio show online and contacted me, and yesterday we had a pretty long phone conversation, and I really talked him into doing the radio show. He's never done radio before. He's a genealogist and has been working on the life and times of the president. His name is Gene Belinsky, and he's a very welcome addition to the mix on who is Barack Obama. And I made a partial list. I had written a column. I've written 2 columns about it. And the list of things is just amazing that are missing from this man's life. I made the point several times, Mr. Belinsky, that we know more about the life of George Washington than we know about Barack Obama. So you were telling us the newspaper birth announcements that, again, how did they get to those papers? Your best guess. How did they get there?
Well, I really don't. I mean, I have to take their words for right now because I can't prove otherwise that supposedly the health department or somebody in that area gave them copies or whatever. But that's why I was trying to go ahead and find out if I could find the original documentation to prove, one way or the other. If they were consistent in how they were published, I would probably not even go that direction. But they weren't consistent. Mm-hmm. That's what
make that point again, because you floored me with that yesterday. There is no pattern to this.
Yeah, I mean, you would normally think, if you have say 10 births one day and you send them out to two newspapers, and they, assuming they have the space in the paper, you would expect within a day or two to see them published in both papers. And that's not consistent if you look at the whole month of August at all. There's only, I think, the days when Obama was born, and then I think there was one day earlier in the month where they consistently, within a day or so, published, the list in both newspapers. And what's really kind of strange is, this Nordyke twins.
Tell that story. This is an important.
Well, they were published, as I recall, on the 16th. In a Hawaiian Advertiser, yet they never appear. In fact, if you look on the 16th, there was a total of 80 names published in there. And out of those 80 names, only 35 appeared in the Honolulu Star Bulletin. That was on August 17th. But all the rest of them weren't published. And you wonder, why they weren't published if they didn't have space or whatever.
The Nordyke twins have come up before. They have a birth number that people have brought up.
That's another story we could go into. Can I sidetrack?
Of course you can.
I want to just mention a little bit about where everybody says the records aren't at the different hospitals. I went ahead and I personally called up the archives over at the first hospital that was mentioned.
Was it Queens?
No, the other one.
Yeah.
Well, I went ahead and I talked to a gentleman there, a young fellow, and I says, "Well, do you have his records there?" And he, stated to me that he kept they only keep records for 25 years. Mm-hmm. Now, what would be interesting, and I didn't ask him at the time, is the Nordykes were born there. Somebody should check in to see if they have their records. Now, we know for a fact that they were born there. If we see the published birth certificates, and see if those records are there. If they aren't, then they just don't keep records that long.
But you know that Funakoshi has said before she moved from the job that there was a birth certificate. Now, the problem is that Neil Abercrombie, the governor, couldn't find it. Fukino is her name. I'm sorry, it just came to me.
Yeah, Dr. Fukino.
Right.
Well, see, what I don't understand is she said there was a record on file. She didn't say what was in the record. Now the former governor made the statement that they had looked at the records. Now, what I don't understand is if the state law says you can't look at the records,
how did they look?
They're closed, then how can they be looking at them?
How did they look, right? And
without violating state law.
Exactly. But not to rehash things, but the story really does begin here. The two terms, again, that have plagued the Obama birth certificate issue from the beginning and have fueled all these questions, the alleged certified copy of certification of live birth. For example, what do they mean terms of legal veracity behind a copy of a birth certificate? What's the difference between a registrar and a state registrar? These are questions I have, and of course, when did African become a race?
Yeah, that's true. That has been, I think, covered by other people. I didn't get too much into exactly what was on all the certificates, although I did look this morning, and the wording on his certification, as far as the one says, I believe it is filed at the register. The other one says accepted. I think his says accepted.
What does that mean to people like myself?
I don't know either. I didn't really go into that. I thought, well, let's look at other directions, because what I was more interested in is the original file numbers and stuff like this on the certificates, because there's there's that inconsistency where his birth certificate number is a higher number than the
twins.
Nordyke twins are, and yet they were registered 2 or 3 days after he was.
I need to go slow here as well, because I've spent a lot of time with this. The Nordyke twins were born when and where?
They were actually born, as I recall, on the early in the morning on the 5th of August.
1961.
Right, in the same hospital supposedly he was.
Well, there's two different hospitals.
Not Queens, the other one.
Kapiolani?
Yeah, Kapiolani.
Right, because there's, there's been these claims.
I mean, you can see it right on a certificate. And they were born, see, that's another thing I went into. If you look at it, they were born in the morning on the 7th. He was born, I think it was like 7:24 or something like that.
They say that, right.
On the 4th.
Right.
Okay, and then if you look at the certification of live birth of his, it looks like he was registered on the 8th, and they were registered on the 11th, I believe it was, or at least the doctor's signature and everybody, the registrars.
Because there's no doctor's signature on Obama's. Nothing you can see there.
No, there isn't. That's why you want to go ahead and look at the long form to see what was really on there.
Right. Why is the numbers on the Nordykes significant?
Well, because they're a lower number than his was, and typically back then, what they would do is these records would be presented to the either a county or a state office, and that's where the numbers actually was put on.
Mm-hmm.
So they would, and if you look at the Nordykes, you can see where they're put on with one of these incremental rubber stamps.
Right. That one flips, the next one flips.
And
right.
set them up.
Right.
And if you look real close, you can actually see. I think it's a 106 or something like that starts the number, and the 0 and the 6 are slightly higher than the rest of them. So you can see it's a rubber stamp that was done back then. And now, why would his number be higher if he was registered sooner?
Sure.
It should typically be lower.
But, if you jump ahead in time, you see his selective service stuff, pretty much the same thing. It's been doctored. I know that's not what you've gotten to
yet.
Yeah,
I haven't looked into that. Now, what I was interested in doing is to, I made a list of everybody who was born on the 4th, or everybody that was published in the papers on the 4th of August. And what I'd like to be able to do is go look at or have somebody look at the birth index just to confirm, to get the certificate numbers off that birth index. Nobody's been able to actually look at the original birth index book. I would say back then, based on the fact they didn't have, computer listings back then, everything was done in a hard copy book, and and everything was written in my hand in most cases, or typed. And so you'd really like to go ahead and look at those entries and see, how they were put in and so forth, whether the person, if they were written, whether the same clerk did it or whatever, and to see if the rest of these people, there's a total of, let me see here, there's a total of, I think, 36 people that were born on the same day, and just to see what their numbers are and so forth. And then also what would be interesting, if there's people out there listening who were born on a day, to actually see if they would like to at least share their birth certificate information. You wouldn't have to necessarily publish it, but to see what it says in the way of, when it was filed and so forth. And you could also get a list of, possibly end up with a list of doctors who worked at these hospitals.
Precisely. And, of course, there's
like one of the things I can probably say is if you look at the Nordyke twins, doctor, more than likely that doctor did not deliver Obama, because if he had, they would have, it looks to me like he went ahead and he waited till the following, like take a week of births and then take them down and get them registered. Not that he would be running down every day and getting them registered.
Let me do this. I'm close to traffic again. When we come back, tie in the senior going to summer school, and then Andy Martin has a theory, and again, these are all theories, that perhaps Barack Obama was born at home. And having said that, there was no evidence that his father was ever around him. He never knew his father. And in fact, although the story of in Dreams from My Father, he was 2.5, and his father leaves his mother and off to Harvard, which is just nonsense. She's already left for the mainland. But
exactly.
But what's important here is conceivably, if he was born at home, surrounded by nothing but Anglo people, with a midwife, with the skin texture and color that he has, could it possibly have been that they put he was white on the birth certificate?
Well, I would say if he was born, if he was delivered by a midwife, then she would have been the one that would have filled out the record and take it in. My grandmother used to be a midwife, and I found many records in the Milwaukee courthouse with her, entries.
Then that's one of the Andy Martin. I'll bring you back, sir. Hang on. He's a remarkable guy. I met him because he listens online. He's in Wisconsin. He's never done radio before. I'm Peter Boyle, 630 KHLW. Let's help you get to work. 8:36, 24 minutes before 9. Back here tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Kaplis and Silverman. After all this NPR stuff, be a hot show this afternoon. Tomorrow, there's one of our favorite guys is Steve Alley with the Kickdown Fighters and the MMA Fighters. We're going to bring together some Colorado greats, Lightning Lonnie Smith and Ron Lau, with some young MMA guys in the studio. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. It'll be a good one on a Friday. All right, 630 KHLW, American Financing. And rates are, again, historic lows. It's a crazy day with the markets. Rates are not expected to stay this low. No one is sure, but one thing is for sure. We're not out of tough times by any stretch. Personal belief is worse is coming. So get yourself secure right now. American Financing, they will help you, again, do a refi on your home, save you money that I think you're going to need. American specializes in refis and purchases. You can put together an appointment. Their building is at 225 in Parker Road. And I would urge you to call them, make an appointment at 303-695-7000. Say for, tomorrow's Friday, but 1 o'clock Monday or 2 o'clock Tuesday or whatever it's going to be. They'll tell you what paperwork to bring. You sit down with their guys. Or they'll come to you. They have in-house appointments, and they have deals that they'll do it that way for you as well. Streamline this. Get it done right. 303-695-7000. Save yourself some money. At least make the phone call and find out. 303-695-7000 today. Our guest is remarkable. He listens online. He is in Wisconsin. He's retired. He's a genealogist. His name is Gene Belinsky, and he has been working on Barack Obama. And he's been working particularly in Hawaii on those birth dates and times. And as I pointed out before, I think the long-form birth certificate, or the precise story of the actual story of what happened in the so-called nativity story in his birth moment, sets the stage for the rest of it. Understand one, you will understand all. And Andy Martin has come up with a theory, Mr. Belinsky, that perhaps Barack Obama was born at home. His mother was very healthy at the time. That was done fairly commonly, apparently, in Hawaii, from what I've been told. And the other question I would have is, if you looked at birth records of other African Americans, I have had people do that, and I've looked at their issues, and what they come up with is no one has ever used African as a race. Colored was a race. Negro was a race, given this is 1961. They have never been able to find a African-American man or woman born in 1961 in Hawaii using a race African. Now, those are two questions. If you would, speak to the audience.
Well, I really can't comment too much on it because I didn't look at that aspect of it, because there was enough people that were actually researching the authenticity of the code that was posted. So I just let those people handle that part of it. So I've never actually looked at it at all. So I can't really comment.
Then take the next one. If he were, as Andy Martin believes, born at home, there's no evidence that his father was there. There's no evidence that his mother and father were married. His father abandoned him way before he was born. That's my supposition.
Well, I mean, if you look at what was in the Polk directory, it doesn't have his father living at the same place her parents lived at. So that opens up the question there as to where it could be. But without seeing the record, you just don't know. That's why we need to see the record.
Well, that's why it's all belief at this point, and there's no knowledge. What do you believe? I mean, you have to have some sort of a belief system, given what.
Well, I mean, my only conclusion is that there's something he doesn't want people to see. I don't know what that something is. If it was something like, I don't know, can't even think of what it might, if, say, Obama Sr. wasn't his real father or something, but that wouldn't be, or they wouldn't have put it down in records.
But they would if the so-called nativity story, that the speech that he has given so many times, the unlikely marriage, if you would, of the goat herd from Kenya and the farm girl from Kansas. That his whole political run is based on that story. And if it's not true, then it really falls apart.
Well, that's exactly right. I just not knowing what the background was in Hawaii at the time, I just would doubt it that he would be born at the parents' house or whatever.
But even when those birth records say at home, that's grandma's house. That's not senior's home.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. So I just don't know what to say. There's
Go back over the Nordyke twins again, because there's been so much written about the Nordykes' numbers. Do that one more time,
basically based on what I know about how it was done back then, using this incremental stamp. Now, of course, it's adjustable, so you could change. There's nothing to say you couldn't change the number on there and put a higher number at an earlier time. That's why I'm wondering how a number could be higher when he was registered earlier than the Nordyke twins. Mm-hmm. It really should be a lower number, and that's why I was interested in getting into the birth index, because typically, at least the original books. Now, I don't know how it appears in Hawaii. The computerized system just gives you a name, a sex, I think, and the day they were born.
Right.
But normally, typically, they also give you the file number. That's why it's called the index, so you could find the record. So it should typically have the certificate number, number on it, and the number should have been a lower number. And if I could go ahead and look at all the other people, at least you could get some kind of a pattern maybe and see if that same sort of thing happened as well. And if you could actually look at the records and know when these people were actually registered, then you would know from a timeline whether that was common or not common for that number to be higher, even though they're registered earlier. I don't believe it should be, but what I would like to do is for the state of Hawaii to allow the people to actually look at the original record.
But remember again, this is what Abercrombie, the incoming governor, across major newspapers of the country, was going to torpedo the so-called birthers. He was going to show the proof. And, of course, I believe he has a phone call with that guy, Mike Evans, and says there isn't one, or we don't have it, or whatever the hell happened. There were 4 or 5 Democrat Hawaii legislators that were going to sell the information. They were idiots.
Well, yeah, but they couldn't do all that
That's
stuff.
right, they
can't. It's against the law.
Exactly.
It's against state law. Like when he said he was going to go ahead and look at the record. Well, if you're going to obey state law, then you can't do that.
But I think he did.
But he could have gone in there and looked at I'm talking the original hardbound copy of the birth index from back then. He could have looked at that, and at least we could confirm that the certificate number that's published is the same thing that's in that book. Also, typically, if there's a name change, like people were talking about, he was Satoru at one time, and you'd have to go back and change his name or whatever.
Right.
Well, if you go to the courts in Hawaii and you have a change, normally they'll put a notation, at least they do in Wisconsin, they'll put a notation in a space there where the birth is listed, and they'll actually have the court case number on it so you can reference to get back to that paperwork on that name change. So these are the things. That's why if you could go see the original birth index book, there might be some notations. I'm not saying there is, but there might be.
Do you have, as we end the segment, do you have any conclusions at all, other than something's being hidden?
I don't have any conclusions other than something's being hidden. I think there's a possibility if he wasn't born there, he could have been born someplace other than Kenya as well. Mm-hmm. I've looked at the state of Washington. It doesn't. It's an open state, but in order to get any records, you have to be exact in what you're specifying. And the person I talked to there didn't feel he was born there, but she, couldn't help me. I did call up British Columbia. Their records are all closed, so you can't see nothing there. So I don't know. I mean, I would think, if you look at parents and, say they're, back then, if you looked at parents and and the daughter became pregnant, a lot of times they would go ahead and ship the person off somewhere to have the child.
Absolutely.
So maybe that happened. I don't know where it would be, but if usually if it's in the States, then the state could have possibly sent a copy of the registration to Hawaii, but then the dates, for it when it was filed wouldn't match, because if you were born, say, on a Friday in some other state, back then you wouldn't see no paperwork back in Hawaii within, say the next Tuesday or something.
You and I, we will continue to be friends and continue.
Yeah, we'll
having
just
a
be
show.
scratching our head.
Yeah, no, you are terrific, and we'll be in touch probably. And if you hit someplace, you hit hit a vein, call me right away. If not, we'll be in touch. Mr. Belinsky, thank you so much for your time this morning.
All righty, take care.
God
nice
bless you,
talking
sir.
to
You too. It's Gene Belinsky. Contact me. He's a genealogist in Wisconsin.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.